This chapter discusses the difference between data and information. And we say now that data can be defined as a representation of facts, concepts, or instructions in a formalized manner, which should be suitable for communication, interpretation, or processing by a human being or electronic machine. What we observe about the difference between data and information is that data is any data that is not yet processed, but may be processed to produce a useful information. So what you're saying is that, for instance, if I have employees who are working 8 hours per day, they work for say 6 days. This is data. So if I have recorded in my input, each of them have recorded the input that they came at 8 a.m. One person came at 8:15, person came at 8:30, and the other one came at 8:50, and each of them left at a given time. So this will be data that will help me produce payroll information. I want to be paying them on the number of hours they have worked. So for me to produce payroll, how much each one of them will get, I will need this data. So this is the data that is a representation of facts, concepts, or instructions. But when I process the data and I produce the paycheck, this will be processed information, and that processed information is the one that we are referring to as information, because you have to be able to distinguish between the data and information. So what we say about the information is that information is organized or classified data, just as I have explained, that when you use data to produce some useful information that can be of meaningful or can be used for some particular purpose, then that is what is called information. But data is raw facts. If actually we can actually call them raw facts. But that fact or those facts can then be used or can then be processed to give you some very useful, meaningful information. Then we say that for the decision to be meaningful, we say that we characterize information to have the following three statistics. That the information should be available when required, that is timely, it should be accurate and complete. So when I need to pay my employees, when it is required, it should be timely. I don't want to start calculating their hours when I am supposed to be producing paychecks. So the process information should be timely, should be accurate. I should be able to pay someone their dues when it is due, and accurately without overpaying them or underpaying them. And lastly, the information should be complete. That the information that I have received from the processed data should be accurate and complete to assist me perform the required task. So there are cycle that is followed when processing the data to produce information, which we refer that processing as the restructuring or the reordering of data. And this may be done by people or machines, and that processing or restructuring increases the usefulness of that data or adds some values, and when it has the added values has been added, it is then said to be of useful data and becomes information. And you say that the data processing cycle has three basic steps: the input, processing, and the output. So as usual, we'll discuss what each of these steps constitutes. So in this stage of input, the input data is prepared in some convenient form for processing. The form will depend on the processing machine. For example, when an electronic computers are used, the input data can be recorded on any of the several types of the medium, such as tapes, etc. So, for instance, you want to produce as a movie. So, and the movie is a combination of very many clips. So you would have to take a camera and, of course, get proper scene and the actors, and you go to the scene and capture the data using camera. So that step of capturing the data for you to produce a movie is the one that we are referring to as the input stage. And we are saying that it is going to be stored. Cameras might still store the data in memory cards. In the old days, they used to have magnetic discs, tapes, but nowadays we have hard disk or memory cards, etc. So that stage is the one that you're referring to as the input stage. And of course, now once you have captured those clips for the eventual preparation of the movie, the stage where you're now going to be combining each of those clips and editing them and probably adding sound tracks and introduction scenario or clips. That kind of stage is the one that we are referring to as the processing stage, where we say that the input data is changed to produce data in a more useful form. And we are going back to the paycheck example, whereby we are also saying that paychecks are calculated from the time cards. Time cards is the one that I said that you came to work at this time, you worked for 3 hours, then you went for break, etc. So those time cards again are the ones that are being summed up to produce summary of time worked, and therefore that will enable us to produce the paychecks. But paychecks is not yet produced at this stage. So here we are giving 3 examples: one for the movie, 2 for the paychecks, and the last one is summary of sales. You want summary of sales, but this is going to be calculated from the sales orders. So I think I don't necessarily need now to go over that again. So the last stage is the output stage, whereby we say that the result preceding a processing stage is corrected. And now when you are now giving out paychecks, or you are giving out the final movie, that is the output. Or you are now have a summary of sales, that is the output of this stage is the one that you are referring to as the output. And that might be in a form printed, non-printed, an email, etc., or a payslip